Hello, friends. Uh, this is Iris Kirsch, public school teacher in Baltimore City, recording live from my classroom at 10:14 p.m. on a Tuesday night. You may ask, why are you at school at 10:14 p.m. on a Tuesday night? Is there a dance? Is there something fun happening? Are you doing a big project the next day, going on a field trip that you're preparing for? No, unfortunately, that's not why I'm here. I'm entering midterm grades. As you see, this dialog box keeps popping up, and I have to click no. I don't want to stop running scripts on the page because this software needs to run the scripts or it's not going to work. I have to upload not just the grade that the student got on their midterm, but the exact answers that they put on their midterm into this software. And my computer, which I don't know exactly how old it is, but it is running Windows 2003. And it's like a script on this page is causing Internet Explorer to run slowly. If it continues to run, your computer, I don't know, it says something like it may stop working. So it does that about 3 to 5 times every time I finish entering a test. Then I have to wait while it registers that I definitely don't want it to stop running scripts. Asks me again. We go through that a couple of times. And then it'll finally let me select the next test. Backstory on the test is that we have a curriculum that we're supposed to teach based on what the district has asked us to teach. And teachers have some flexibility with that, but we're generally expected to stick reasonably closely to that. It's more stringent these days because they've put in this essay that all students write for their English class 4 times a year, and it's a question that's written by the district. And it's scored uniformly. We actually go to almost all of our professional developments this year have been about scoring these essays correctly. So we've been told the essay scoring is going to be the big deal. Focus on those essays. And that we would get to write our own midterms. We'd asked several times. The members of my team asked several times if we would be writing our own midterms or if there would be one from the city. We were told several times we'd be writing our own. So we ran with that. 2 weeks before midterm week, we got an email with a midterm in it. And we're told that we were going to be giving this midterm. So you might expect that it would be aligned to the district's curriculum that we've been teaching, but it's not. It was not aligned. It was just basically like a practice HSA, which is the high school assessment, which is the state mandated test in Maryland, which Race to the Top and No Child Left Behind are based on. That's that test. So it was just basically test prep, but we were expected to give it during the midterm window. And we're not required to necessarily use it as our whole exam. So my colleagues and I already had made a test that really got students thinking about the things that we'd been learning this year. And what we decided to do was pull 2 sections from the district midterm and require those as part of the midterm grade, and then offer students the rest of the district midterm, which, it ended up being fine because students who weren't here and hadn't read the books that we were reading, then they had these like short stories to answer questions about in a more general way, and they could get extra credit. So I made this answer sheet. This side is the side for the book that we read, the things that we spent our time with. There's like several questions, and they put their answers in here and in here. And then this part was the 2 sections from the midterm that I required them to do, and then the extra credit sections. So, whatever, I think it's demoralizing for the students to give them a high stakes test at like midterm time based on things that they have not seen before. Let's try to look this backwards. But I also understand that we live in an imperfect world, and that sometimes when you work for a bureaucracy, you just have to do what the bureaucracy says. So, okay, fine. Gave them this midterm, and then thought that was over, entered the grade that they received into the report card software, and put these in files in my filing cabinet so that in case anybody was contesting their grade, I would have them. Well, good thing I did. Because then somebody from the district office of teaching and learning, mind you, not testing, emailed my boss and said, your English teachers haven't put in their midterm grades. And so she emailed us and was like, you guys need to enter your midterm grades. And we were like, what do you mean? Well, apparently there's some software called DataLink, which is made by Pearson, which is one of the major beneficiaries of the education reform movement. They are selling billions of dollars worth of software programs and books and curriculum materials and tests to school districts around the country. So when people complain that there's not enough money for public education, one reasonable answer is it's because Pearson has a lot of it. So Pearson has made the software called DataLink, where teachers enter data. That's all I can tell you. And we knew we had to enter our LDC essays. Those are those essays that everybody in the city is doing the same ones. That's why we have to spend all this time learning how to grade it properly on the rubric, because then we enter the rubric grades. But now I have to enter these midterm, not the grade, mind you, but the exact answer that every child put for every question. And as you see, it takes about 5 minutes between the end of, I just entered one student's scores, not scores even, answers. Every one of a student's answers. And now my old machine and its old operating system is struggling with this new, very tech-intensive software. And in a few more minutes, they'll convince each other that they can work together. And then I'll put in this student's answers. And at that time, I'm going to take a minute to show you another part of this that's problematic. And by the way, my colleague next door has a newer machine, a much newer machine. She's running, I think, Windows 2010, and that was what was loaded on her machine when she got it. And it still takes her this long. She started doing this, and then in a half an hour she had completed 3 exams. She had entered the children's answers for 3 children, and we teach about 100 children each. I guess in English classes we have about 85 students each. Then we have a homeroom on top of that. So she decided, and I don't blame her, to, instead of sitting here for hours and entering data, to print out answer sheets, even though the kids had already done the test. Print out 85 answer sheets, give them to the students, give their homemade answer sheets to the students, and say, please bubble your answers from one sheet onto another, so that then she could scan them in. That took up class time. It wastes a ton of paper, and she still has to stand there for probably an hour feeding the 85 individual sheets through the machine, waiting for the software to recognize each one of them, clicking through to make sure that it did in fact recognize. So instead, I've been at this for the last 5.5 hours. I taught a full day. Our school day ends at 3:35. We're doing some, for real? Okay, great. We're doing something for the students tomorrow, and there was a meeting about it, so I didn't get out of that meeting until 4:30, and then it took me about a half an hour to get myself settled in to where I could start doing this. So starting around 5, I have been entering this data, and for the most part I've been really on top of, like, I'm talking to you and I think I might have waited another minute or 2 longer there, but I've been sitting right here waiting for the moment when I can go on to the next student. I have been doing other things. I've been cutting paper flowers, which then my students write their name and the name of the book as they finish a book, and we put them in our little garden over there. We're growing as readers. I've been grading quizzes and doing all kind of other stuff. Talked to an old friend on the phone, but I've been on top of entering the stuff as I need to. Let me show you a little bit of why it takes so long. So this is for the essay, and I have to put in what I scored the student on the essay rubric that came with the exam, which by the way was different than the essay rubric that we're using for the 4 essays that we have to do with the students all year. Totally different rubric. So that was interesting. And by the way, none of these rubrics are the most commonly used best practice rubric of the 6 traits of effective writing, which, let's see if I can still remember, are content, conventions, word choice, fluency, or sentence fluency, I don't know. I used to know them all, be able to rattle them off, because that's all I used for years, because it's an excellent rubric that's used all over the country and probably beyond. But no, we made up our own rubric in Baltimore for some reason that is much narrower and has a bizarre focus. So you see that I'm clicking these, and now that one just recorded. Now that one just recorded. And then this one will, can you see that? at the next, I'm gonna do the next one and then I'm gonna pull you over so you can see what's happening here. I hope you don't get seasick. See how there's a delayed reaction there? Bam, there it just recorded. So, and this is true not just of this older machine, but of all of the machines, including the very new one next door, that it takes the software a few seconds to recognize that you have entered data. So it's not just a matter of click, 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 but of click, 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 wait, 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 wait. Now I can scroll down to the next ones. Wait, wait. And this kid didn't do very many questions. He didn't even do all of the ones that I required. So this is going to take even less time when a student has done more than the ones that I required. That's going to take even longer because every 3 answers I'm going to be waiting for the computer to get it together and decide it can move on. So this is a colossal waste of time. I can't imagine why anybody will care what Dorian put for number 37. If, like, ever. I don't know why anybody cares now. I don't see why anybody will care at some point in the future. But if they did, we're required to keep the students' answer sheets. So if they wanted to see, they could just come and be like, hey, Kirsch, can I see your file? Can I see Dorian's midterm? And I'd be like, yeah, if you're like a legit person to be looking at my child's midterm, then yeah, here you go. He put B for number 37. Now, in its defense, if this was a test that I created and I was tracking my students' progress on their ability to recognize tone in a passage, in an unfamiliar passage, and so I made several different assessments, or I pulled HSA questions from several different years and I gave them to my students every couple of weeks and entered the information into data links. And I could see, I'd be able to graph it and do all kind of interesting stuff with the numbers. I'm not saying that there's no place for data synthesizing software. This is not the place. If anything, it will allow the district, people at the district level to look and see how our students did on this midterm. But as I said, nobody knew we were giving the midterm until 2 weeks before we gave it, and it's not aligned to the curriculum. So, anyhow, I hope that you are having a more pleasant evening than I am. Thanks for keeping me company, because it's really kind of lonely and boring here. Even the mouse went to sleep. If you can read this, thank a teacher.